roll call. I guess I'll just call out everybody's name. You can just say hello. David Hamill.
Present.
Cateri Collins.
Present.
Jim Vogel.
Present.
And we have Mr. Souza from the police department and Mr. Rich Bourbonnais from the engineering department. So, absent right now are Bill McClusker and Jen Judge. I hope that they can join up with us shortly. Okay, so item 3 is the approval of minutes from August 20th, 2020. And Rich, I think for those, I don't know if we had the minutes. Am I correct?
That's correct. And I believe, from my records that I have looked at so far, it even appears as though it's July or June, the meeting before that is even shown as draft. Were those ever approved at the last meeting? I can look back. Let me find out. So it may be that we have 2 plus today to look at the next meeting, and I'll have those for the next meeting.
Okay. Yep, that's fair. Moving on. The correspondence and public comments. Rich, in the past, Rob had just kind of given us a heads up if there was anything noteworthy that you've received in town about bike and pedestrian type issues. So I don't know if you had anything to share with us.
No, I wasn't. In the future, I can prepare. I mean, we are going to pave River Street. That's going to happen this fall. And so be on the lookout for that. And that's about it. I mean, we're looking at doing Torrey Road. That'll happen most likely in the spring because of the work that National Grid just did. We're just worried about settling on the road, so we want to give it a good amount of time to settle before we pave it. So that'll happen in the spring. Still considered part of the same fiscal year.
Got it.
Other than that, I'm sorry. In the future, I'll try to prepare to have something. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. And I don't think there's anybody else from the public here, so we don't have any public comments.
There are none.
I mean, just a note, Rich, obviously not actionable, but in your opinion, giving Torrey Hill Road, it's a pretty severe grade out there, and River Street seems pretty constrained. Off the top of your head, did you think there could be any opportunity for enhanced striping or signage in any of those corridors?
Well, the thing about, I'm always afraid of drainage with expanding pavement and things like that. But presently, Torrey is already paved a little wider than normal because what they've done over the years is they've paved the ditches on much of it. So there may be a way to get away with, maybe, instead of doing like a standard 22, you go 24, 25, and that way we could maybe stripe aside such that you could travel it. That's really an answer. That's really a question for John, but I'll certainly run it by him. And our highway group, I'll talk to them as well. We have to do some advanced drainage work on Torrey. And what we're going to do is we're going to swale much of it on both sides and check dam all the way down just to kind of dissipate some of the energy coming down that hill. We've already installed, there were under drains installed as part of the recent TMDL work that they did at the base of the hill and along much of Middlebridge Road. We installed other under drains up higher on the hill while National Grid was doing their work and the road was closed down. We installed under drains. So we're just trying to dewater the hill a little bit so that we don't have so much blowout and maybe the road ends up. We're not planning on changing grades out there. It'll be effectively what it is now, but we'll talk about it as we move on and maybe on some improvements we can make. I'll try to come up with something and we can,
okay.
At least we'll make some talking points.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that's item number 4. Item number 5, business items. Item number A. master plan and project improvement plan updates. As you folks all know, we presented the master plan and the BTIP to the council one of their last meetings, so they acknowledged it, which is as good as an approval as I think we're going to get. Not that we had anticipated anything more than that. So as of now, I believe we're into an approved status, and it's actually time to get busy. So I know Jen was intending to jump on. Hopefully, if she can reboot her computer and join in, we could get back to this point. I think one of the items that we were thinking about doing with the master plan was some outreach, COVID tempered, to see if that would be hopefully impactful and helpful as far as bolstering our community impact. I didn't know if anybody else had any comments or you wanted to add to that. Catering and Dave, I know we've been talking about enhanced public outreach, so it looks like we're on the cusp of being able to do something.
Yeah, I think it would be great to, well, a question is, are there any funds available from the town that would enable us to print out multiple copies that we could get out and around town? Or
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. You're the town.
I'll defer to Ken. No, I don't know what's available for printing costs, and but I can certainly look into it. And I think that question should probably go to Rob, and I'll ask him. Okay. And now, what were you looking to do? Print out the master plan, get copies available, or were you looking to distribute them, or have them available?
I know we've talked about distributing them at least to the bike shops, getting them into the hands. I think it would be nice to make sure they're in the hands of applicable committees and departments within the town.
Well, has it been put on the website at all? It should be on the website by now, right? Do you know, Ken?
I haven't checked yet. I think our intention is to get it up on the town website. And Jim, I know we had talked to Rob about, I don't know if there's a need for any minor, graphical editing, or are we good to go as we stand today?
I think it's good to go. We had a brief discussion with Jen about distributing it. So I was waiting for the minutes, and whatever the words said in the minutes, I was going to put on the table of contents to say this was whatever the town council says, received, approved. I don't know what the right word is, but we would say on, what was it, the 29th of September, I think, or whatever the date was, we will just say that's the addition, PDF it, and then, yeah, Rich, I'd like somebody to put that up on the site, so then to cover Cater's request, at least at a minimum, you can go to the website and print your own copy or download it.
Right, and then you'd have a link that you could send around if you wanted to send it around.
Yep.
So as soon as you get the verbiage, however you want it, and you edit the document however you want to, get it to me, and then I'll get it on the website.
All right, I looked at the beginning of this meeting, the minutes aren't posted yet, so I'm waiting for the town council minutes to be posted.
Okay, and there should be there's usually there may even be a separate, I don't know if they record anything with this, like is it a recorded resolution perhaps, or something? I don't know what comes out of that.
Yeah,
So
it's a good point. They didn't have a resolution supporting or endorsing it. It's not something that was required by charter, but I think it was clear that what we had to do is create a master plan and a project improvement plan, so we did. If there's a need I mean, maybe this is you and Rob and the solicitor. If you think we need to have a resolution, then I'm all about it. But I think the way we left it with Rob was that we were done.
So, Ken, I know there's different machinations to do. I think it would be, if possible, be great to have a resolution with a. I'm sorry, I missed the town council meeting, and thank you very much for you and Jen doing that. It would be really great to have the town council be clear that they're recognizing this as the town's plan. So that is a matter, because it leads to my my next question about the like complete streets, integrating it with the rest of the town people, town departments, right? So that was one of the recommendations. And if the town council says, yeah, this is our plan, that just makes it easier for everyone to understand what the town council wants.
David, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
there's a phone number. There's a phone number here, ends in 282. I allow them to talk. I don't know if
That's me, Burb. It's Jen.
Okay, Jim. All right. I didn't know it was you, and
Sorry.
for some reason I can't promote you to the panelist, but you can certainly talk as needed. Okay. I don't know why.
My laptop being very pesky. I can't connect to the meeting tonight.
Okay. All right. So Jen's here, everybody.
How
Hey, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hello, Jen.
Hello. Hello.
To your point, Dave, I think there is other work that we need to do, and I agree with your point. Great to have Rich here on our meetings, so now we get to talk a little more detailed about how we integrate complete streets or other technical guidance into what Rich and maybe the planning department rely on a regular basis for design standards. So
Right.
that also needs to happen. That's another next step. So I think the takeaway, if I could summarize, I think the master plan is approved, but for a belts and suspenders approach, it would give us all great comfort to have a resolution that backs it up. That makes sense. And if Rich, if you could please, ask Rob or the solicitor how we could do that, that'd be appreciated. And I think, and now that Jen's on, I know that there was an intention, Jen, just before you came online, I had mentioned that I think one of the things we wanted to do with the master plan is to socialize this plan through Zoom meetings or whatever mechanism we could use to make sure that we have some good community engagement, really focused on the master plan itself. Did you want to add to that at all, Jen?
No, I mean, that sounds great. I didn't really know if there was any official legal technicality that had to be put in place before we did that. I sort of thought that just us presenting to the town council sort of sealed that, but just to be safe, and I think David brings up a good point that in moving forward, as we start talking about complete streets and referring to our next step, if there's some kind of official resolution, that makes sense. But no, I don't have anything else to add in terms of the master plan. I'm excited to start that Zoom process. So whatever you guys recommend in moving forward, that'd be great.
Actually, to get to Katie's question about money for actually printing, I think it would be a good idea to actually have some hard copies that were sent to the various media, and then to community organizations and to the superintendent of schools and the principals, and with a note saying, hey, we'll be talking to you in the future for the community people. like the schools. And,
I think the expense of that, David, is just too great. I mean, this is a 40 to 50 some page document. So perhaps maybe a small, postcard kind of invite that has a link on it. I think, as I had asked before, we really need a link put on our website, because I've had colleagues who were excited for us and wanted to review it. But I think digitally it would be good to just keep it at hand rather than hard copies, just because the expense of that will be hundreds or thousands of dollars. Well, hundreds, not thousands, but a lot of money.
What type of format? If you were to print it, if you were to print up a number of copies that you wanted to leave around, what did you want it to look like? Do you think it's not a bound document, I'm assuming, and maybe is
No.
it
Yeah, I thought a bound document, right?
comb?
If
No,
we
but
were
I mean,
having
a comb type bind, a comb type binding, or
Yeah, comb binding would be great.
like
That
we
would
do
be,
with our other plans that I have around here.
yeah. Actually,
Like, I'm
if
gonna show you.
uh,
Like, this is exciting stuff that we produce.
if you don't have it on the shelf, it's not real, right? And can I use belts and suspenders, Ken, also? Because I had not heard that phrase before. But yeah, I think, so do you have, Rich, do you have any idea how much that would cost to?
I know, but if it's a comb binder, it's something that we can always do in-house too. And if you only want, 20, 30 copies, that's different.
Yeah.
If you want 300, that's a different story. We can't do that in-house. So let me talk to Rob.
I like Jen's idea of a postcard or, something with a link that can be dispersed more greatly. And we could leave, a stack of postcards at various shops or around town, schools, wherever. And that can link to the town site.
So some things that we've done, and I think all these are great suggestions if the funds are there. At a minimum, we should put it on the website, and then even a QR code that's on the document to the site. So someone just takes a photo with their cell phone. So let's say there's a copy at Stedman's. You take a photo, you'll have the link right there and you're right in. And it's easy to do, and the apps are doing that quickly. So, as far as Stedman's and MDX, I'll pay for the copies and drop them off once we have the official for there. And then, where it goes from that, I think, whatever you can do, Rob, is greatly appreciated.
Well, when you get a final document ready for posting to the website, then, please just include that QR code so that.
Yep. Well, we need the website, so I think that's something, if you could look at where it would go or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's easy enough.
Then we'll just put that in after, so that's easy.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. You can't have one before the other, right?
Yeah.
We'll have to put a placeholder there. So maybe we
Yep,
just post
I'll just put it in
we'll just
now.
post it as soon as possible, and then we'll swap it out when we
Yeah.
get a QR code.
I'll make a note that, again, this is our inaugural master plan. I think the intention was, after some community engagement, it's likely that there could be some tweaking of the document. So I'm an advocate for digital versions, because there may be more editions of this document coming. Not full rewrites, obviously, but definitely some tweaks.
It's a living document, and I think as long as we date or rev it, we'll be fine. And then you just know which one you have.
A question I have is, how would the public engage in terms of leaving comments or suggestions or questions? How would we collect community input?
I mean, the thought that I'd throw out there is that we would agree to a date to have a meeting. Maybe we want to do this by village. So there was, some local interest that gets drummed up. And we can basically just say we'll accept comments through email for a period of time. I mean, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month.
Well, we could supply a method for sending comments on the website as well.
Okay.
Again, we want to give people ample time to make comments, and if we're gonna shop this around and let's say have 3 or 4 meetings, we'll give ourselves what like another 4-6 months, to pace ourselves, to have these meetings, to give people time, and then to contemplate if there's a need for revisions, and we can fold them in. Yeah, not anticipated to be a rewrite, but I think tweaking of local knowledge of some of the things that we.
Mm.
Okay, if it's all right with all you folks, I'm going to go to item 5B, active issues and concerns. The first sub-bullet is Middlebridge Road, temporary and long-term solution discussion. As we're all aware, there was a recent fatality out there. It's on top of another fatality, a very tragic local fatality, a little bit better than 6 months ago. So I know there's been a lot of discussion with Rich, your office, and Jim. You live out in the Middlebridge area in terms of things that have happened, things that you're trying to do, both in the short and long term, and maybe Jim, you want to give your impression of what you've seen out there in the short term, and maybe give us an idea of what your thoughts are for long term.
Okay. Well, Rich and the staff have been working on those traffic calming signs that we talked about previously, so he can report on the exact status and where they're going. I think this most recent accident was pretty clearly the person was speeding when they had the accident, and I don't know any other details of why they lost control or what happened, but unfortunately they passed away. It's an ongoing thing, and we've well documented what's going on here on Middlebridge as far as folks going fast. So Rich has been doing, work on finding places or things. I gave a summary of what the current situation is and what we have here. And the neighborhood's pretty vocal, and we communicated to the town council at the last meeting our concerns about trying to do things. I brought up the option of the road tables or speed tables, and that was part of the review that Ken talked about at the beginning of the meeting. Perhaps they could be an option here for what we're looking at here. Other than that, I think, we've well documented that the road's, a trouble spot or whatever the right word is. And unfortunately, it proved to fruition twice this year.
Jim, I'd love to drive down that road, particularly where the kayak place is. And both sides are stunningly beautiful with the egrets and but I would just say this, that I'm amazed that more people haven't been clipped, because the people that are walking there are apparently, they need to like dress brighter when it's evening time or whatever. It's kind of there's that, and then I go the speed limit, right? And if someone is behind me, I'm surprised that I don't get bumped. It is pretty impressive how people want to go faster than 25. And I think that the stop sign is fantastic there at Torrey Road, because it definitely, but you had pointed out that as soon as they go through the stop sign, or after the stop sign, they speed up significantly.
Yep.
It had occurred to me that I think that it's the drivers predominantly are the issue, but it's pretty amazing to me when people out walking their dogs, which I think they should be able to do, but dressed in dark clothes and all over the,
So Dave, to that point about people walking their dogs and what have you, I mean, I think that's the crux of the issue, at least for this discussion point, temporary and long-term solution discussion. So I think what I've observed, I've talked to Jim about it. I mean, this is a neighborhood. It's also an area that, you know, people will drive through. So I don't know if you'd call it a cut through. You know, Rich, we had talked generally speaking about, you know, the classification of the roadway. And, you know, what I'm interested in kind of teasing out of all of us in this discussion is what, you know, given that there's been a couple of fatalities out here in 6 months' time, clearly, you know, the problem exists. What are realistic options for the town in both the short term and the long term to address the well understood conflict between vehicles and pedestrians and bicyclists?
Yeah, I think, Ken, you captured it, because I think also from my experience living in similar areas that are kind of going from that rural to suburban changeover, or whatever you want to call it, or the areas around them, thus the traffic increases, is it's probably time to really think about the long term and what the probable population shifts are going to be in the area. And where to go. I can tell you from my experiences as being an avid cyclist for most of my life, once an area goes to more urban, it's a safer environment for the cyclist. It's when they're at this point where we are right now in the township, where it's rural to somewhat urban, that you have those inconsistencies. But if it's more urban, everybody goes 25, because kind of the community has the population and the awareness to do that, as opposed to being a country road where, you know, you didn't do that. So I think that's some of the things I think we can learn from other areas, whether it's here in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, other areas, to try to glean out what are some of the things that we could do for not just Middlebridge, other places in the town where similar shifts are happening.
It seems like I don't spend too much time in Middlebridge, but it seems going, you know, adding on to your point, Jim, that you're entering a neighborhood, you're entering a fuller neighborhood. So kind of similar to, similar in ways to our conversations that we've had about Main Street, where you're entering the village. There should be kind of an entryway that indicates that you need to be driving more slowly. So I'm wondering if in Middlebridge, on either end of the more condensed area, there could be either a restriction of the road or a sign that you're entering Middlebridge Village, something to indicate that you're transitioning from a more rural road to a pretty densely populated neighborhood. Rich, you know, could you make the road more narrow? Could you add sidewalks? Could you have a sign saying you're entering?
Yeah, maybe all of that. We are preparing an RFP now to go out to traffic engineers that deal in traffic calming throughout the state. And what we're hoping to pull from that are some general concepts that can be used throughout town based on the type of road. But where we want to ask that they specifically look at, Middlebridge, of course, would be one of them. Broad Rock Road, I think, is another really, really difficult road. Matunic Beach Road would be another. And, you know, other roads throughout town. I think that, you know, I certainly think that, I mean, Sergeant Souza and, you know, Captain Healy have their opinions on where we want to focus some of these efforts, but Middlebridge is one of them. And I don't know what will come out of it. I mean, it's difficult for my office to start throwing out more things out there. We're going to put the signs out, the variable signs. They've been ordered, but it's only 2. It's not a lot, but it's 2 of them. But, you know, I'm not, that's just one thing, you know, out of a bunch of things that could happen. I think chicanes are an option out there. I think there are a lot of options, but it'd be better to have some sort of empirical information, some sort of data that says, these are what really have helped over here from experience, and this is what's going to help here based on traffic numbers, you know, whether it's a collector road or a local road or whatever. And, so I just want to have defensible data so that because I'm going to tell you something, they're going to come out of the woodwork. I mean, you and I and the police department can all say there's a terrible problem in town with speeding, but you put a chicane out there and there's going to be 1,000 people lined up, and we have to have defensible information to say, no, we know this is the right thing to do because we've done the studies.
And if I
And
could add to that,
it's like now I'll tell you that those swales that we put out in Middlebridge, they're going to be fantastic for the river because all the water coming down the hill, which I think fecal coliform is a big problem with animal waste. It's coming down the hill, it's getting into the system, it's going directly out into the river. Well, these swales are going to help that. But we have a lot of defensible information to tell people when they call and say, what are you doing? We can say, well, no, this is why we're doing those things. And this is all the information. We've got a big body of work that says that. What's up, Ken?
no, I thank you for that detailed description of what's going on in the big picture. If I could, I'd like to make an official request. I would like to review have the BPAC review the RFP.
No, we've talked about that, Ken. So the RFP will come to you. There are other people in Middlebridge that are vocal as well, and we may want to distribute it. And another component of the RFP, by the way, will be public involvement. So we want to look at each one of these communities and get feedback. Go right into these places, like go down to Middlebridge or go down to Broad Rock. But the RFP, I'm hoping to circulate to you all prior to it being issued so that we make sure we hit all the right points.
That's great. And I think my point was going to be that, I mean, as you know, I deal with a subset, of an interesting subset of the town at the university. Interesting in that we don't, I mean, we play nice in the sandbox, but we don't have to go through all the machinations you have to go through for approvals. So, I think one of the intentions of getting you out to Flag Road and kind of look at some of the traffic calming we've done is, to show physically how we've done it, but socially how you do it for the town is as you've described. You could have 1,000 people out there, and what we would prefer to have happen is, I think, something like what we were able to accomplish on Old Tower Hill Road, where there was a lot of grit and perseverance, and then ultimately collaboration with the town, and we were able to come up with I think a better design solution. And it's not to say that everybody likes it, but the 1,000 people has gone down to, I would say, double digits, maybe less than 10, and we know who they are, so we can always talk to them.
So,
anyways, I'm very supportive of that RFP. That sounds wonderful.
Rich, what you're saying about having the data, and I know Mike had said the same thing previously, makes perfect sense. Having said that, I just have one other idea that just had occurred to me. Make it one way up to Torrey Road. So you go in.
I think it should be one way out. I think I said this to Mike. It should be one way out on all roads so that everybody just leaves and we can let it just go to nature.
Well, I was sort of getting that because as I think everyone knows, the problem, hi Jen, the problem is it's a cut through. And if you have it, the one way, going up to the Torrey Road intersection and then one way going the other way.
There's a couple things to think about. I thought one way from north to south would be a nice option, but that would force everybody south of Torrey Road to go out through Narragansett. So if they just wanted to go up to Providence, they'd have to go all the way out through Narragansett. That's not really good. But I don't think that sending everybody from Middlebridge Road up to Torrey Hill, which is a dangerous way out, by the way. It's not safe getting out onto Route 1 up there because you can't see around that wall that's there. So, I mean, I don't know what those answers are, David, but I think that maybe those are things we have to talk about with a consultant at some point to try to just nail it down.
Great.
Rich, any word or time frame on when you will, when the RFP will be awarded to somebody?
Well, we're only developing it now. So, I mean, it could be, a month before we feel comfortable with it. You'll have to see it. So it could be, you know, maybe the next meeting, but probably not. So maybe the weekend meeting after that. You know, so it's going to be a little while. And then, you know, from my experience with like the TMDL sites is that we send out for consultant. It takes a long time to get through the process of, you know, a consultant gathering data, everything they need, coming up with the solutions, doing public involvement. By the time you see, you know, I guess implementable
It'll be a couple years.
solutions, you know, it could be quite a while. But, you know, it'd be nice to have a document to look to say, these are the things we want to move forward with. And, you know, then you can go to council, you can look for money, you can do all the different things you want to do. But until you have something empirical, I don't know how we do it. Empirical.
Okay, so it sounds like the temporary work is in place in terms of, well, you've done some of the BMP work. I'm sorry, you've got the stop sign at Torrey Road. Is there anything else off the top of your head that you think is reasonable for this, I'll say the winter time signage? I don't know.
Well, we've got the variable speed signs, and we can always, I really can't. I like stuff like this because it's very technical. The signs, I'll be able to pull data from it. So I can go down there with my phone and dump the data, and then we can really start to look at the numbers. It's tough now through COVID. We've already done some traffic studies out there, and the numbers are a little wacky right now, but so that'll be interesting to see. And it could be that we see more of those signs along Middlebridge. I think south of Torrey would be a good place, or at least one more. And I think for the you know, for the interim part of this whole process, that may be all we have sort of going right now. And we did paint the road the white stripes. I wanted to go to 10-foot lanes. I did everything I could to see if we can get to a 10-foot lane. The numbers are way too high. And I've been saying this all along about Middlebridge. I mean, there's other roads in town again, but Middlebridge is a numbers problem. There's a speed problem, but that's a symptom of the numbers problem. You've got too many cars going down that road. There's 4,000 on a day. And if you're sitting down there and it's one after another, you got to figure every fourth car is speeding. That doesn't look like a lot statistically, but when you're there and you're standing there and every fourth car is blowing by you doing, you know, 40 or more, then it's an issue.
Yeah, good observation, good information. Again, just to, I guess we'll just be ping-ponging on certain issues. I'd challenge that maybe if you were able to get the 10-foot lanes, you may see an incremental reduction in speed, which could force a redistribution of traffic. People may not think it's a cut through like it used to be, and then maybe they head up out other directions. But again, that's speculation. And it sounds like with this speed feedback signs, you're pulling in data anyways, and you'll be in a good position after this RFP gets let out to have maybe more defensible backup.
Like I said, Ken, if you can figure out in MUTCD whether we can go to a 10-foot lane with 4,000 vehicles in a day, I mean, you tell me how that works. Again,
How many vehicles in a day go down Old Tower Hill Road in one direction?
Old Tower Hill Road, I don't know what the numbers are on Old Tower Hill Road.
Because just for the sake of discussion, it's 25 miles an hour.
Is it a 10-foot lane?
I think PAR reduced it to 10.
No, I don't think so. I thought it was even a 12-foot lane.
So Middlebridge is 25 now. That's the whole length is 25.
So that's well over 12, yeah.
And so as Rich said, so Rich, just so I understand you, those numbers preclude us from going or to Ken's point, could we make it 11 or even one-way 11, or that would be in violation of some code or some?
No, we painted it to 11-foot lanes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then to go to
If you
10.
want to go, it is like Ken's saying, 10-foot lanes generally slow traffic down, but 10-foot lanes aren't going to change the numbers. And the numbers are what dictate how wide the lane can be.
Understood.
So it's just an issue. It's like it's a cat and mouse. But Ken's right. You know, you make some of these changes and then it starts to push people in a different direction.
Yeah, we-
But like I'm saying, if they're waiting 20 minutes at a stoplight on Route 1, you know, they're hopping on Middlebridge Road.
Right.
It's unfortunate. I don't know what to tell you.
When we reconstructed Lower College Road, we went to a hard 11-foot travel lane, took away on-street parking just to have a wide grass strip and a 6-foot wide sidewalk. So it is absolutely gorgeous from a pedestrian perspective. You do not want to ride your bike down there, but
No, it
we
doesn't have a
do-
bike lane, but it doesn't have a bike lane, and you had room to do a bike lane there.
Right, but we knew through our master planning we didn't want a bike lane there because you come out in a really gnarly part of 138. But my point was going to be that after we did the reconstruction, we brought Ripped out there. Their drivers had a fit. They swore to us up and down that their buses were going to hit their mirrors, and we brought them out there and we're like, show us. And all that had to happen is they were forced to drive the speed limit. You know, so what's interesting is Rich, I think, is doing the right thing by bringing up, you know, the letter of the law as far as a design perspective. And I mean, we can do anything, but there will be a consequence. And that's the thing that we really got to dig our teeth into. We don't want to have, we don't want to create any other accident or anything that's certainly more severe. We don't want to just displace bad, driving or accidents to another part of town. We want to eliminate it if we can. So that it's not going to be easy, and I think Rich knows this. So I think we got the right guy working with us here, both with Mike, Souza, and Rich. So I'm really happy that you guys are here to.
I think we
help
just
us
got to
with the
keep
details.
moving a little bit forward, you know, every day we just got to move a little forward. Eventually, I think people will get it and stay away from some of these roads.
I think you'll get better data from the signs you're going to put up than the variable message boards that we use. They're smaller, more discreet. I mean, those big trailers, people see them. I don't know. They see them, which means our data, the numbers are lower. You know, it doesn't look like speed is as big an issue as it may be when the signs are there. Whereas the
That's right.
smaller message boards that you'll be using, I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers are higher than what we get off those variable message boards. They're not exactly discreet on Middlebridge, you know. So I don't know. I think
That's
it'd
an
be higher.
excellent point. People see those big signs and they think they're being.
So the numbers might be
tracked,
slightly
right.
skewed. We tried doing it with the signs off, so people think they're not working. It's a little bit more accurate of a number, but people become wise to it, you know.
How about just enforcement in general? Because that's one thing that the neighbors talk about.
We've been down there. We do more enforcement on Middlebridge than any road in the town
Okay.
by far.
All right. Then, because to me, I'm just looking at it, it's a revenue thing that you could, because to Rob's point, with 4,000 cars, I'm pretty much sure you can find a speeder almost every few minutes.
Yeah, we'll have guys down there and they'll write tickets, but you've got one north car and you've got a lot of other residents in the north area of town that they want their road patrolled too.
No, I'm not saying to take them away from elsewhere, or, even if it was just, 1 hour a week or so to to do things. That's all. Because that's, I think, one of the things that will come up from the local folks here is we do see the patrolmen there, so I'm not going to say that, but they're usually parked by Treaty Rock or more conspicuous, which does traffic calming by itself. But I think if they sat there down one of the side streets, they'd see how bad it is. It's you said it, so I don't need to say anymore.
No, it's just, you got to be able to have a clear line of sight with the radar in order to get a speed so you can write a ticket. So therein lies part of the problem. So you got to have a clear view if you're going to run radar.
I think let's work on our plan now, Ken, would be my thing. I think we got, a plan there. Rich, any concept of when they'd be running those two signs by the end of the year?
There's the signs have a 6 to 8 week lead time, and then we'll install them as soon as we get them. It won't take much to install them. So, it could be a month and a half or so before you see them out there. And we'll start with Middlebridge. We're going 2 on Broad Rock and 2 on Matunic Beach Road.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, in the interest of time, if I could move on, it's kind of a segue anyways. The town capital improvement plan, operating budget, a discussion of how we can support the town programming of funding consistent with the master plan and our project improvement plan. I will note that I did get an email from the town about the voter information for the bond. Rich, I believe it's, what is it, like $6.5 million for infrastructure, but there was, I think, 350,000 for traffic improvements. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
So, well, I think one of the things that this group has talked about for quite some time is how to get better integrated and supportive of your office in terms of, upcoming resurfacing projects or just general maintenance in terms of striping or sign replacements. We want to be truly, advocates for your office. So one of the things that I know that I'll be doing, I've been laying low on Facebook for a while, but I will be advocating for this bond on behalf of the town. But beyond that, is there a timeline as far as your next round of budgeting and public engagement where you think we might be able to help advocate for or support for your office?
You know what? I don't know when the next time we're going to be discussing the CIP. I have no idea. I mean, in fact, that meeting kind of came up quick. The most recent meeting we've had with the town manager, but I'm not sure when it's coming up again. At some point, it'll be at council and it'll be discussed, for its, to be approved.
Right. Well, I guess maybe for the next meeting, if you could maybe give us some insight. I know that everything we're doing these days is COVID tempered. Like all schedules and timelines are a little quirky, but we'd like to perhaps, if John or if your office, if you have a known list of roads and intersections that you want to take care of, maybe we could help get ahead of that and start looking, at those corridors through our master plan and provide some feedback.
Well,
There was a list. Oops, sorry, Rich. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, John.
There was a list, but as to Kenny's point with COVID, I don't know if certain streets are going to still apply or receive the funding on the next upcoming year. So,
well, that's a good point, and they may not. And this year we were supposed to do a couple other roads. We weren't able to do them, just the way the funding worked, and so it changes. But our CIP, our capital improvements plan, projects out 6 years on our pavement projects. But what you'll see in there from my department and from us is pavement, and then it has a lot to do with water quality, things like that. I don't know that there are any items in there that, maybe there needs to be more, is really what I'm getting at. And if I think the bond referendum talks about, certain money is being dedicated a certain way. I don't know if those have been identified necessarily. But I can do a little more research and try to come up with some sort of discussion for next meeting, if that helps.
Yeah, I think it would. Yeah, that'd be great.
And I think just if we know what is kind of the hot topics or what are on there, and then we can prioritize maybe our input, like what we did on Old Tower Hill there and so on. I think that would go a long way for us to help. Even if we go down and we walk it or ride our bike there and kind of get an idea, and we can at least come to the meeting prepared to help you out.
That sounds good.
Okay. The next item I think you'd already touched on, Rich, and that was 5B subsection 3, placement of speed feedback signs. you mentioned that you're also looking at Broad Rock. Was there another road also?
Matunic.
Yeah, Matunic Beach Road.
Got it.
That's like a raceway going down there. Now, the difference
Yeah.
between that and the other sites, though, is that there aren't as many residential closely, they're not close to the property, the right of way, but it's still a very fast road. There are a lot of them in town.
That's a much better surface from the standpoint of enjoyable driving than Middlebridge, but it's still, the speed limit's 25, right? So.
It's 25 and it's a long straight 25
Yep,
or 2 times that.
yep.
Has
'Cause they
there
may run out of beer if you don't get there.
been has there been an analysis of town roads? It seems like most town roads, the speed limit is 25. And sometimes I wonder if the speed is just ignored because everywhere is 25 versus maybe some areas that could maybe have a 35, and then when you hit the 25, it's really because it's a densely packed area. Does that make sense? Or
Road, that is a 35 and turns into a 25. So I think that's part of the issues at the top end with the speed. So at the top end is 35.
Matunic is 35. Oh, okay.
Mm.
I'm just thinking of,
Top end. And then when you get towards the school, it drops to 25 or maybe a little bit before that, but
okay.
that's probably part of it,
Yeah. I just think that if the 25 speed limit was really intended for residential, kind of densely packed areas, then it would kind of jump out at people a little more.
That's a good point. I don't believe, there's nothing I know of that there's a study that's been done to look at, every collector road in town and what the speeds are. We do have a database of where every sign is actually. But whether I really can't say. I don't know when it was determined or how it was determined. It would have been based on, the width of the road, the amount of traffic, the types of access along that road. If there's a lot of driveways and whatnot, you're going to go with slower speeds. But I can't say when that was established. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it were actually done that way, I agree, Rich. I mean, there's a design methodology to basically design roads and to design them for the safe speed for whatever zone you're in. But these are old roads. I mean, it's as you can imagine, it's generally very likely, going to be, there's a residential neighborhood that's dropping to 25. I mean, you get into bigger roads have been reconstructed. Yes, they'll apply the design standards. But it's a good point, and I like the discussion on Matunic Beach Road. It's flat, it's straight. The houses, the farms are set back, so it's almost as much of a psychological analysis too. It's very comfortable to drive that fast. And Dave, I mean, this kind of goes back to one of our early discussion points of our kind of catchphrase there. Set the pace. I try to drive the speed limit. It's hard. Even in my own neighborhood and the local streets here on South Road, Curtis Corner. Of course, when I drive by the police station, I'm always driving the speed limit. But it's hard. You get nasty stares. So
Deb and I were at Matunic Beach today, and let me tell you, driving 25 down that road, Rich, particularly if there's a Connecticut license plate behind you, you are in for so again, I'm surprised you don't get bumped. And coming the other way, thinking if you get hit head on, boy, that's going to be really bad because they're definitely going like 45. You're absolutely right, straight. But that's a good place to put those signs, the electronic signs, and Middlebridge. Yeah.
So Rich, I just found the Public Works Road Improvement Program in the town's document here. And what's scheduled for 2021 is, and 2021, 2022 is Green Hill Beach Road from Schoolhouse to Post Road, Robinson Street, and Columbia Street.
Yeah, that may be different now
Okay.
because that's a few things got pushed off. But yeah, that wasn't, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it's going to be for next year. I can't remember, frankly.
I think Robinson Street, there are some sidewalks on that, and then they just disappear. So I think there's some opportunity to, circle back to the TMDL and dealing with stormwater in addition to that. So if that's actually been pushed out, that extra time might enable us to review that.
Yeah, it could. Now, those dollars are structured differently. So for sidewalks, it's got to go through council. It's a little different than when we, our paving contractor,
Oh, I understand.
it's all hired differently. So, but it would be a discussion that would have to take place, like you're saying, I think sooner than later. So certainly we can look at those things. And I think we've had the same concern for other roads as well, that, the sidewalks could be done. Should we do them? Well, we've got, pavement dollars ready to go. We don't have time to, so sooner than later is right. I think you're absolutely right, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, great point, Jen. And I think that's the nature of this discussion topic. If we know the roads you're going to jump on, we would want to be ahead of it. We'd want to screen our master plan and come up with some recommendations for you folks. And if we had to jostle other funding sources, we're here to be advocates for the town, make sure we can get there. But as Jen rattled off those series of streets, I'm like, Green Hill Beach Road, yep, that's that's that South County bike connector we've been talking about. Jim's been talking about it. We've had that person from Charlestown that came and talked to us years ago. Robinson obviously runs sort of parallel to the bike path, connects right into the main street.
Actually, Faith has still been in touch with me in regards to that connector from SK to Charlestown as well. She has quite the email list of people she's trying to bring in to keep that discussion going.
Right.
Okay.
Ken, Jen, can that get put on the agenda? So we can go over that for next time, that connector?
Oh, absolutely.
I think that would be worth just keeping it in the front.
I
'Cause we
think
wanted to go, yeah.
I agree. That Green Hill Beach Road, that's not something I foresee stormwater issues in dealing with that. I think when it comes to repavement, I think that's a good opportunity to grab striping and signage and things like that to sort of tie in possibly to what the engineer that provided the report from the Charlestown end, and maybe see how a little bit can be married up at our end. I don't know. Oh,
Right.
but that's good. Yeah, sounds good, David.
Okay. Going to jump to item 6A, update from staff on town activities. First one, 6A is Old Tower Hill Road project. I understand that we had a ribbon cutting, but we wanted to also understand what the plan is for operation maintenance of landscaping sidewalks. And Rich, the backstory here is that we had talked to Rob about this at length, God, better than a year ago. So I don't know if there's been any movement from DOT to have the town sign an operation or construction and maintenance agreement. Wanted to know if you had any updates.
Did you ask me about this once before? Somebody asked me about it recently. I'm still not clear on. The O&M has not been signed yet. I'm pretty certain of that. All I know at this point is that, and I'm sorry I don't know more, but that we will be maintaining the planters that are not water quality structures. The state will maintain the rest. I believe that they are responsible. No, you know what? I think we're responsible for the sidewalks. You know, like we are on Kingstown Road as well.
High Street, yeah.
And, to bring up Kingstown Road, I think the last time I was with this group, as an aside, last time I was with this group, somebody brought up CVS and the elevated sidewalks. The reason why that hasn't been done yet, it would have been done already, but the CVS is removing all of those trees. So we didn't want to redo the sidewalk while they were in the process of doing that construction work. They're going to be putting back trees, but they're just putting back something that won't destroy the sidewalks anymore. So we're waiting for them to do their work, and then we're going to go in and replace the sidewalks. Just as an aside, I'll find out more about the O&M for the next meeting, Ken.
Will a root barrier be put in with the next batch of trees, Rich?
No.
And just to clarify, will the state be maintaining the stormwater planting beds on Old Tower Hill Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I know that there's that division. So we're maintaining the ones that are the beds that are not water quality structures, which include down the middle of the road, by the way. And then the state is maintaining the water quality structures because they're integral to the drainage system.
Yep.
That's
I was
what the
trying to explain
division
that
is.
to Rob. I'm like, we can't have those be a free-for-all of what are at corners, where businesses come in and they plant what they want. I'm like, those plants have specific purposes and they, right plant, right place, or right place, right plant, whatever. So I'm glad to hear that they'll be maintaining those.
Well, I mean, if you see anything different going on there, then you need to let me know, and then I can certainly call the state or take care of it through the state. But if we see anything that's strange, I think you're right. I mean, those plants are very specific, and they need to be maintained just as they are. But it's up to the state to do it.
I'm so bummed that the trees didn't get put in though. Wah.
Which ones?
There were like 20 some trees that were supposed to go in along Old Tower Hill Road. And apparently it sounds like, well, it's obvious they weren't part of the install. And
Yeah, I was wondering, my impression were there were supposed to be quite a few trees. Is that just a permanent, they won't go in, or?
To my knowledge, it's effectively wrapped up. So I'm going to tell you that there are no more trees going in. But I did not know that they took some out of the contract. What's that, Ken?
It was
I don't think they took anything out of the contract. I think as they got later into design, they had utility conflicts under the sidewalks that limited the placement of trees. At least
It's
that's
two
the
gas
party
lines.
line that I've heard.
Yeah, they broke.
The two gas lines.
They broke gas
One
lines a
week.
couple times. They shut a couple people down. Right, that was no fun.
Rich, when you say that the town is responsible for the islands, the care, would there ever be an opportunity for the town to plant trees along the islands?
Well, the islands, I think, were planted. Which islands were not planted? The crosswalk, the one with the crosswalk on it was not planted.
The one across,
But I don't-
the one at the top, the one at the top of the hill by Jaber's Liquor.
That's planted.
That's planting trees.
No, it's not. No,
Yeah, it's got trees.
First one.
Oh, the one all the way at the top, or the
Yep,
longer
it's-
one?
It's definitely not. It's yep.
No, it has trees on it in it, I believe.
Okay. All right. Well,
It's lined with
I wouldn't
trees.
bet the farm on it,
It's
but
got a
I'm
daylily.
pretty sure it doesn't have.
Well,
Very small.
I think it's a liriope at the base. I think it's a liriope at the base.
Not the Liriope.
So, but I think that you're right. I don't know that the other ones were planted, but I don't know if they were ever meant to be planted, were they?
All of the stormwater, almost all the stormwater pits were supposed to be planted with trees.
Yeah.
But,
Oh.
I'm happy to see green, so it is what it is. And
Okay.
oh, here's a silly question. Since that came in under budget, and those trees probably upon install were 1,500 to $2,000 a piece.
Nothing's under budget.
There is a, what the heck is it called? When it goes out to the public statement, it said it was under budget and it was done beforehand.
Yeah, it was done. Yeah, Cardi moved real fast on it.
But
But we did get granite curb at the end of that project, so I don't know that originally they planned to spend nearly as much as they did.
I was just trying to allude
I
to,
understand.
can we put those trees elsewhere in town since we were under budget? But, you know, I guess not. Moving along, sorry.
Rich, there's one thing, if you could go back and maybe check with Rob on. There were very early discussions. This goes back to meetings with Larry Fish and the Economic Development Committee to make sure that there was a conduit placed under the sidewalk so that electrical power could be brought out to those areas so that they could have holiday lighting. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know that they put conduit in there, Ken, but what we decided, we wanted to see a more lantern style. We wanted to get, right now it's got Cobra headlights, which is absolutely ridiculous for that road, but that's what's there. But the thought was that, well, there's conduit there because there are lights there already. So if anything were to be replaced in any way, but whether they added additional conduit, I will check. Okay. And
I appreciate it. I think the intent of the meetings that we had well over a year ago was that, and it was through Rob. Rob had committed to paying incremental costs for empty conduit if DOT couldn't come up with the money. That was a meeting we had with what was his name, Darius, the project manager from DOT. That was a while ago. I mean, I'm not hopeful that it's there. I mean, it'd be great if it was, but I just want to make that point, and if we get an update next month, that'd be great.
I would just like to add, I recently biked on Old Tower Hill Road for the first time because I was too afraid to do it beforehand. So I went, rode up from Dale Carlia up to the school. I'm forgetting the name of the school up at the top.
Monsignor Clark.
Monsignor Clark. And then rode down. So really pleasant. The traffic was much more calm. I felt totally safe. Coming down the hill, the entrance, the lights that are going into Shaw's. I was a little nervous about that part where it's just the dotted lines that kind of take you from one lane kind of in the middle of traffic, but that was fine, perfect, no problem. My only concern was when I was headed towards Dale Carlia. You come to the lights, right? Wakefield Liquor's on your right, and you've got 3 lanes. And the sharrows direct the biker to stay in the turning lane, so all the way to the right. So I was sitting in the turning lane all the way to the right, and then the arrow light turned green. So there wasn't a car behind me, but if there had been a car behind me, I would be blocking their turn. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know that you should be in that lane if you were going straight.
The sharrows telling me to sit right in that lane. There's sharrows on the road telling me that this is my place to be. So I just, the painting on the road is telling me that I should be in that lane, but I'm sitting in front of a car that has an arrow to turn right.
Right.
So that was my only concern. Everything else was lovely. It was really pleasant, and I never would have biked on that road beforehand. So it was really nice.
Well, you bring up a good point, and I'm going to go take a look at that.
Yeah, my gut reaction is that, I mean, if to your point, Catering, because I used to ride it daily when I would commute to Providence. I'd ride down the bike path up Main Street, up Old Tower Hill Road, and then back. If you were to maybe have like both lanes have sharrows in them, I think it's a matter of having striping fatigue. You know, it probably would look too busy. So
I've,
maybe,
I've, I've seen in other cities and towns like a green box in that situation. And it's a green box for your bike, for the bike to sit in. It's a place for a bike to stay while they're waiting for the light to turn green. So, you know, I know what to do in those situations because I know to kind of get in the traffic, but the sharrows are telling you to stay in that lane. So it's just a little dicey there.
noted. Moving on, item 6B, South County Commons Bike Path. I know it's been constructed, it's opened, and you know, it's a similar discussion topic. I mean, that's a town asset, so I presume you guys have all the responsibility for operation and maintenance. But I also put in here plowing. I didn't know if you guys are going to treat this similar to other bike paths and maybe just plow one lane and keep the other lane open for years, or do you have any thoughts on that, Rich, or do you know?
Yeah, you know what, we haven't quite figured it out. See, the problem here is that normally, I think that, well, there's a couple things happening is that people use the bike paths for cross-country skiing. And I'm not sure, you may know better than me, Ken, whether the other bike paths are plowed or is it just half of it that's plowed in the wintertime?
Yeah, it's half.
Right, so the problem here is that the whole upper half has to be plowed completely because the Commons has to get to that pump station once a month to check on it. And so we will be plowing fully that part of it. And then I believe it's half of it on the rest of it. So unfortunately, if you're a cross-country skier, you're not going to be able to get all the way up to the Commons. You know, I wouldn't want to climb that hill on cross-country skis anyways, but
Right.
but that's where it's at now. I don't know that an agreement has been struck with the Commons yet because we haven't, you know, come into the season. We'll wait till the last minute, I'm sure, and then we'll come up with something. But I'm not quite sure on what's happening with that. But as soon as I find out something, I'll let you know.
It's a beautiful path. I just walked it this evening. It's really lovely. I'm wondering, are there any plans to have a sign for it, or you know, anything on Broad Rock or something to let people know that it's there more?
We could. We hadn't talked about putting one all the way out to Broad Rock, but we certainly could. The thought, I think, has always been that this connects to the one over by Old Mountain Field or by the dog park.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the connection, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and hopefully over time, people see this is a great way to go to the Commons from downtown rather than, you know, you don't have to get on the highway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a
Part of the
first.
signage and wayfinding that we brought up when presenting to town council, so.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, I'm sure that you guys have already talked about it. The power lines would be a great conduit to get over to the other bike path, by the way.
Yep.
So, you know, with proper signage in that neighborhood by McCarthy, you could send people all the way to the Commons from the bike path
Mm-hmm.
someday.
There's also the bike path that we're talking about is on a town sewer line,
It is.
and the Greenway path, I think it was a Greenway report that was done back like early 2000s, I think, identified another sewer line that is from the Guild. It runs from across from the Guild to the foot of Old Mountain Road. And I thought that that would again connect the Guild to Old Mountain Road, to the bike path at the top of Old Mountain Road, to the dog park, you know, just all these little networks that we have.
Well, you know, people could always be sent through the Oaks, and it could be signed such to send
Mhm.
people through the Oaks. It could be striped even, it'd be nice, I've walked the North-South Trail through the state, and I've walked the Appalachian Trail a lot. But, to have some sort of system of one indicator after the next, so you can see the next one, guiding people
Mhm.
through neighborhoods to get to assets like that pathway, because that would be a great way to draw. What you're saying, I think, is a great way to draw people from the whole Church Street area all the way to the Commons.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
A
actually,
lot of possibility, let's just say it this way. It's a lot of possibility.
Kateri, that piece that you mentioned it's sort of from Old Mountain. It's where the overflow from Old Mountain Pond goes, sort of like a connector to the Saugatucket River, and it goes down to the Guild, right? That's where you're talking about. That's supposed to be a public path. And that's long forgotten, but that is how it's written. And I think that the people that live along the things have just quietly forgotten about it. But it's supposed to be a thing for people to walk along.
The town maintains, about once a year, the town will go through and clear it. And it's marshy back there. It's pretty wet, but I've walked it a couple times when they clear it. And yeah, it goes right along the little stream, and yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If that bike path wasn't approved back in, 2006 or whenever it was,
Right.
it would not be approved today, that section of bike path. I mean, it was so wet in there.
So wet.
There was nothing to do with drainage. Although the state does look at gravel as though it is considered asphalt. So we would still be going from effectively a CN value of 98 to a CN value of 98. But we would have been asked as a redevelopment site to do water quality treatment, and we have nowhere to do it.
Yikes.
There. So I just don't know how that path would have been developed. And I'll tell you, DEM threw us a huge solid by letting us put in that switchback ramp. Now, I'm sorry to get off topic, guys, but the grant award required fully ADA. And what we realized that the plans that were approved back in 2006 did not meet ADA. So we had to add some sort of ramp. So when it came time to do that, well, we didn't have the land area. We had a very specific limit of disturbance that was approved. DEM, when they make approvals on wetlands applications like this, they approve a limit of disturbance. If you want to change that, you got to go back. And now we're going back, but we'd have to look at new regulations. We could have never met the new regulation. So they were able to say, listen, we believe that's small enough a change. And we had a few meetings up there at DEM back, whatever it was, last fall, the fall before, I don't know, it was a while ago, a couple of years ago. And we were literally begging, like saying, do not send us back for another permit on this. But they allowed us to create that switchback to meet the requirements of the grant request so that we could build it. Otherwise, we couldn't have built it. And we would not have been able to make the improvements that would have been necessary. So that was this close to being just thrown out. I mean, that was not good. Nerve-wracking.
It is a beautiful bike path, particularly with the overhanging trees, and you folks did a great job. The town did a great job with dealing with the safety issues. The thing that, and it had been talked about a couple of meetings back, the sign for walkers on the left, I think we need bigger signs on both sides. In maybe that is hard for people to comprehend. It's a great system. The walkers will be on the left and facing.
Whenever you introduce a new path like this, you're going to get new walkers. And
Yeah.
there were a lot of people using that path, by the way, even when it was gravel.
Yeah.
So, hopefully over time, what you're saying, David, goes away. as people start to
Okay.
understand the concept of walking on the left. As people don't understand it. Back
Right.
when I was in Virginia, we were doing pathways, rails to trails, we called it. It was rails to trails.
Yeah.
And I was working for an engineering firm. We were building pathways on old rails, and they were old rails. These were like steam engine rail that went all the way through, all around town. But that was always the thing. You had to train people, walk on the left. It was back then too. That was 20 something years ago.
All I'm suggesting is a bigger sign without ruining the beauty of the place. Or
We can
whatever.
we can look into that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what you see out there is our standard sign we've been using all over town.
Yep. Yeah.
There's even just painting on the pavement too reminds people that's another way of doing it. And I've even seen people do things where they do it with stencils. So the thing is they wear off and then it's a maintenance thing. And then every season they redo them and they'll do them in a different color or something just to get people's attention.
Well, if we come up with something good, we can paint it with epoxy the last 20 years.
Yeah.
With that
Nice.
kind of traffic.
Cool.
But we'll look at it. We'll keep an eye on it, David.
Yeah. Thank you. That's.
We lost Ken.
Yeah, I guess he had to run. But in terms of 6B, any other updates, Rich, in terms of like landscaping? Is the maintenance all signed for that? I understand plowing's to be determined, but
Yeah, there is no maintenance. There's no O&M on that. There's nothing. We'll be just maintaining it.
alrighty. So I guess that wraps up number 6. Other items of interest. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to?
I do. I am really excited about all the bicycle shops being out of bikes and people. I think I don't see as many people riding as the number of bikes that were sold, but I hope that will work out. But some Scottish minister was saying that he was really also excited about everyone being excited about riding bikes, but they should have some certificate in order to ride them because they're riding so bad. And I have been amazed at seeing some of the stuff that where people, first of all, there are a bunch of people I've seen riding their bikes. They hardly know how to ride. It looks like they're like just learning. And then I was driving down the end of Main Street onto Route 1, and there was a couple who were coming off of Route 1 the wrong way on the turn. One guy was wiggling, and the woman was halfway out in the middle of the road yelling at him because something was wrong with her bike. And I'm thinking, wow, this brings me to the thing. If the next meeting or sometime in the future, we could talk about that the aspect of an educational program. You start where you are, and so it could start in the schools. There's got to be something that can be work out with maybe phys ed or whatever, and maybe puts things into the local paper. Because I got to tell you that the thing about going both ways, there's always when I ride, I'd say every 10th car comes way too close, but generally people are careful. But I don't know if other folks have seen some pretty horrendous bike riding, and it just reflects badly on the whole thing. So I think that if they understood the rules of the road and maybe didn't go on Route 1 if they didn't know how to ride their bike well, that might be a good idea. And Mike, they're not even supposed. Can you ride on Route 1 with your bike technically? Oh, wait. You're.
I wouldn't do it, but
Oh,
yeah,
but you
do
can
it.
technically. Okay, that's good. No, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Maybe perhaps, David, we share this with those who are selling the bikes. And as the person purchases a bike, here's a handout for rules of the road.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
old were these folks that were willing?
The couple that was going the wrong way on the on ramp, I'm going to say mid-20s, 30. I can't tell anymore.
Yeah. So I think it's a good idea with high school students to
Yeah.
include that in their curriculum. But when it comes to the 20 and plus, that's maybe wherever the shops are to MBX, Stedman, say, hey, if you guys wouldn't mind including this, that'd be great.
Yep. Ken mentioned if we could mention South Kingston sets the pace, like a bumper sticker to put on your car, so when you're going the speed limit, someone wants to bump you off the road, you can say, look at my bumper sticker. If we could put that on the agenda or talk about it sometime to produce something like that, that I think that would be great.
Okay. Sounds good. Anybody else with any other items of interest?
I'd like to suggest that at the next meeting, we make a date for our first Zoom call if we want to do one this year, or if we say it's going to be January. But I think the coming out party or whatever it is, I think we should set a date so when we get the website going and all that, we can say, so the Zoom call is going to be, and if it's January, it's January, if, with all the other stuff to get the logistics down. But I'd like to see if we could pick a date, because we only have really 2 more meetings this year for us, unless we add another one. And I don't see us probably doing the Zoom call in this calendar year. So, just set the date next meeting.
Rich, I have a question in terms of logistics of our meetings. Is it possible for us to sort of conquer and divide? In other words, if you were to team up with 2 or 3 of us for one village Zoom meeting, could maybe Sergeant Souza and the balance of us team up for another, so that if we held one Zoom meeting, perhaps for the village of Kingston, and then the other team had a village meeting for Matunic? Is that possible, or logistically, should we all stick together as a group for these types of meetings? I mean,
Well,
maybe
this is the
overthinking
first
it.
I've heard of the village meeting, so I'm not sure what they are.
Oh, okay. We don't have like an exact agenda. We want to keep it pretty simple. We want to introduce the master plan to folks. I think we've all been sort of thinking about a list in our heads in terms of who we would like to reach out to in terms of stakeholders, whether it's school committee people, educators, the folks who are in various bike clubs or things like that, the Parks and Rec, whomever these stakeholders are, but also give some time to post these at the various, in town, whether it's on a utility pole in town, or to post some flyers at, MBX or Stedman or at the school, to sort of gain some interest to those who might want to join in as well. Not for too long. We're not expecting like 100 people, but to try and vet out some time that way, but also some stakeholders. So just to briefly, I can't imagine spending more than a couple hours on our Zoom meetings to just a brief outline of what our master plan's about and for some initial feedback. And that's as far as we've gotten.
I just,
And you don't have to tell me now. It's just something to think about as we move forward.
if there's no more than 2, if there's no more than 2 of you, it doesn't have to be posted to the Secretary of State. But if it's going to be, I believe if it's 3 of you, then we would be posting it to the Secretary of State. It would be a public meeting, I guess. I'd have to check on that. This is the first time I've ever staffed a meeting, a board, so I'm learning as I go. But let me think about that. But I think it may be up to you. If you all want to be at a meeting, a village meeting, then we do that. Now we can record them and we can post the video of that. We can make that video available to everybody. There's a lot of options there as far as letting everybody in this group know what happened at the meeting. But whether you all need to be there or not, maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah, I really think one meeting for now and we see who comes. I don't think, like you said, Jen, we're going to get 100 people. So I really think if we just do one, and then as the COVID thing clears and the village information starts to go, but I think if we just publicize an open meeting for the town, and whoever shows up who has passion about pedestrians and cycling, and we can present the plan to the public and then just get comments and take them in.
Now, could you
That's
make
what
that your
I-
regular meeting though? Couldn't you make that one of your regular meetings?
It could be. That's why I'm saying for the next agenda, we decide on that, and then we start working toward, okay, if it's the December meeting, then it's not a regular meeting. We're going to present the plan and talk to folks about it, or whatever it may be, or add a meeting in between November and December, if that's what we want to do. That's all.
Rich, we would probably need the town's help in setting up that meeting, because unless you have, I think, like a commercial grade Zoom, you can't get more than X amount of people on it. So
Well, we do. And we have, even these are set up as webinars, so we can bring attendees in. We can do a lot of things with these meetings, but we do have a full version of this. So, I mean, I believe it's up to 100, even on the dressed down versions, it's still up to 100. Just they don't last more than 40 minutes. That was always the issue. But in this case, like, as you know, we're going on, and these, we have a full version.
okay.
And would we be setting it up, Jen, or anyone who's more tech savvy than I? Can you set it up where I know you can set it up where you can show your computer screen and have like a PowerPoint type presentation? And then are people just responding by the chat, raising their hand, or like, how are we going to have this back and forth if 30 people show up?
Well,
What do you guys envision?
Well, what's been done at most meetings now is that we would have, you could have your presentation, and I can share the screen to anybody here, and you can show your presentation, you can talk about it and everything. Everybody that shows up to the meeting would be listed as an attendee. They can see all of that. And then what you can do is ask for any questions, and then when they raise their hand, I can bring them into the video, and then we can see them, and they can ask their question, they can talk, and then we throw them out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how the town council meeting worked. It worked very well from that side so Jen and Kenny did their presentation. It was just them and the town council. And then later on, we had our letter that we wrote in, and then, they basically.
They brought you in.
raised their hand. Right. And they brought us in. We were right on the video and talked. And then when we were done, like Rich said, they turned us off and we went about our business.
Like right now we're all here, but I could have, I don't know if you can see it, but I can, and I can see all the attendees. We can have 30 or 40 attendees sitting there, and they'll raise their hand. And I believe that in the order of when they put their hand up, they actually list in that order of when they put their hand up. So we can actually call on them one after another. We can bring multiple people in if we wanted to, and they can talk, and it can be somewhat interactive. We can bring them all in. If there's only 5, we can bring everybody in. We can have everybody on the screen.
And
To your question though, too, Catering, I can share my screen. So if I had a PDF or a PowerPoint, I could pull that up.
great. And so do you all think that we should put something together that's a kind of a shortened version of our grand master plan? The highlights?
Yes, I think you start with the table of contents, and then you make up some PowerPoint slides, let's say a 10-minute presentation or something that we present, and then use that to talk to people. But at first, we got to make sure it's available for them. So when we send out the invite, if anybody wants to go and read it cover to cover, they can, armed with their questions. And then we also use, whether it's Jen and or Ken, have the plan there that, oh, on page 32, here's the answer to your question, or I don't know, whatever it may be, to help people see it.
My presentation was about 10 minutes or so. So if
Yeah.
anything, I can just put some images in and create one from that. So I'm happy to do that, Catering. I guess the next question, then our next meeting, which leads us to next meeting date and agenda items, will be November 19th. That's our next meeting date. So at that meeting, would you like me to present that PowerPoint and then have a list of our stakeholders and then schedule it perhaps by the following meeting? I don't know. What do you guys think about having that in December? Do you think that's going to, should we wait till January?
I think let's pick a date, and it will most likely be January, is my view on that. But let's follow your lead to say, let's look at the slides, talk about what we want to do, come up with the stakeholders, and then throw a dart at the calendar and say, okay, we'd like to do it here.
So the January meeting will be January 21st.
So whether we pick that date or we pick, you know, an alternate, you know, I don't know, the second week of the month, you know, or however, I don't know when Martin Luther King Day is, but, you know, something like that.
Okay, we can reiterate, you know, circle back to that for next month.
So Jen, for the next meeting, if we could talk more about how to make people more aware of the committee's work and the plan, and how they, and then I think that's how we may be able to get more input. But just to have people know that the town has a committee and there's a plan, and that people are looking out for bicycle and pedestrian safety. However we get that message out, I think that it requires more of a broadcasting. So if that could get put on the agenda, if that's okay, just how we might do that better. I don't know how many people look at the town website. I don't know how many people read the Narragansett Times or the Independent, but you know.
Well, our town, South Kingstown, on Facebook certainly has gotten quite a bit of activity, for one. But we still also have the Facebook Healthy Places, so we can do that as well. Use that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I'm just so that we have, you know, we've thought about all the possibilities and what works and what doesn't.
Yep.
We can put something on the town website and the town Facebook as well. People read those.
Okay.
And could we come up with one, you know, I think, Jim, you were saying like the table of contents, or, you know, like one kind of like press release that can go to, it can be on Facebook, it could go to the newspapers, it could go to different websites, it could be an email, just one central something.
Yeah, I think when we get it posted on the website, that would be my recommendation, Rich, is somehow put it on the news page on the town to say, we just posted this. It's whatever the right word is, approved, active, the document's there for your reference. And that's why I'm asking what I asked before is, ideally in that press release, we say, and there's going to be a public meeting on January X. So that way it's all kind of there. And then even if we just printed that and handed it to people, or we emailed that link, now that's kind of the invitation, you know, it's the, you know, whatever you want to call it, engagement announcement, you know, it's the beginning of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Save the date.
Yeah.
Dave,
Well,
think about the t-shirt design, okay, Dave?
I'm gonna try to take the most recent
That's great. All right.
I'm going to try to take the most recent document that I have anyways on file, or I'll get it from Ken or Jen, but let me try to get that on the website with a link so that maybe by next meeting, that way you'll have an opportunity to see how it operates and you know, whether the document changes or not, that doesn't make a difference. We can edit the document and then repost it in the same place. That's not going to make a difference, but
I'll send it to you right after the meeting, Rich. It's on the file area, so I'll show you where it is, and then you can just get it.
yeah, you should be able to just send me the link then.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you right after the meeting.
Perfect.
And speaking of press releases, I just want to pass on a yay team moment because RIDOT put one out regarding Old Tower Hill Road. And Peter Alviti, Whitehouse, Reed, Langevin, Cicilline all gave wonderful praises of what has happened on Old Tower Hill Road. And many, many thanks to Abel Collins for mentioning us and our work. So I just wanted to pass that on because that was good kudos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jen, I'm suggesting we call it the Jen Judge Commemorative Highway. Yeah. So.
So funny. I do have to say I chuckled when they brought up the stormwater and how that was, the bioretentions. And I thought, God, that was not part of the original plan whatsoever. And because we had a discussion, because we were brought in, because we had an opportunity, because we had residents, a community meeting about it. Very thankful that our engineer was very grateful for their help in being that connector with RIDOT and integrating that in. So, yay.
And I think that's, it all ended up well, but kind of following up on what you're saying, Jen, it's, everybody loves it now. And there was a chance that it wasn't going to look like that. And so I think somehow in a positive, to try to do this in a positive way, but to kind of point out that we had valid input and we pushed. And I was thinking about it today and thinking how the town, there was hesitancy on the town's part to push RIDOT. And we were pleasant, but we came up with some good ideas and it looks great. So to hopefully carry that into future projects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Go team, go.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Rich, I'm so glad that you're helping us out right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And I know Mike is too.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Absolutely.
What up, Rich?
So guys, I think that that wraps up our meeting for tonight.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Anybody else want a second?
I second, Jim seconds.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
Mike, real quick before you go, I've got something. I will be in touch with you